Hello and welcome to episode number 29 of 11FS Spotlight. My name is David Brear. I think you're probably expecting Kate. I think this was billed as her. But sadly, you're going to have to make do with me for the day, I'm afraid. In this weekly show, we shine a bit of a spotlight on the best and the brightest in the tech and financial services industry to try and understand what is it that gets them going, growing, and what they really think the future of the industry is going to be looking like. A big part of this show, as always with everything that we do, is your involvement, your questions and your engagement in terms of what we're doing. So please leave them in the comments bar, and what we'll do is we'll just weave them into the conversations as we go today. On today's Spotlight, what we've got, I'm delighted to be joined. So we've got Atif Siddiqi, who is the founder and CEO of Branch. And also we've got Vidya, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Marqeta. Atif, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Thank you very much. Where in the world are you today, actually, for everybody's benefit?
We are based in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Very good joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Amsterdam, and I'm looking forward to
it's always a beautiful day in Amsterdam, isn't it? Whatever the weather. So yeah, it's a lovely place to be. All right, today, guys, what we're going to be doing is chatting more about Branch and Marqeta, as well as the new report on gig payments. This is something that really is changing at an absolute rate of knots in terms of the gig side of everything that's happening from it.
We provide fee-free, employer-led financial services. It really helps businesses accelerate payments as a way to empower their workers. And we do that through our employer payments platform. We've really been focused on Americans that work in hourly or now gig jobs that have been underserved by traditional financial services and oftentimes rely on alternative financial services.
And that market is exploding, isn't it? In terms of like market opportunity tick, like in terms of the engagement. So, over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, there's just been such an explosion in those opportunities, and the needs of that market is quite different from just a checking account in the normal context, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. There's very unique challenges that very little low savings. So at Branch, we're really looking for equitable ways that we can help them grow account balances over time and provide them really services tailored to their specific needs.
Very good. Vidya, from Marqeta's perspective, I mean, you guys have been in the news quite a lot lately, but for anybody who doesn't know Marqeta, then give us the elevator pitch in terms of what you guys do.
Sure, David. Marqeta is an open API platform, and we are a platform built by developers for developers. We enable any business, like Branch, here is a customer of Marqeta, to build a card to serve their end users and really build those bespoke products. And this matters because most of the platforms that were built in card issuing and processing were built decades ago in the 80s. And so they were never suitable for businesses like Branch, and some of the most innovative companies that have come out in the last decade to build card products. And that's where Marqeta comes in. We really empower these businesses to create awesome experiences using financial products and payment experiences.
Very good. I mean, I've spoken with you guys at Marqeta a number of times before, and I think we share a real view of the sort of aiming at a market that just hasn't been served right now. So how did this relationship come about? I feel like I'm running some sort of dating show at this stage, but how did this relationship come about, and what is it that you guys are really looking to achieve?
Sure, I can touch on from our perspective. Really when we looked at our consumer base, we wanted to use those funds in an equitable way. And so with the wallet at the core of our product, we were looking to a debit card issuer that, if they wanted to use those funds, they can do so and really provide a fee-free experience to our end users. And that's why we turned to Marqeta. They've been a great partner for us because now, our model is really monetizing off of interchange, and we can provide the solution for free, not just to the employer, but also to the worker. I would say with Marqeta, as Vidya mentioned too, is it's been a great partnership because they share a lot of our DNA with core technology and this idea of creating greater access in financial services, and they're able to help us bring our product to market very quickly.
Very good. I mean, we've worked really closely with Marqeta in the past, building a US retail bank. I don't want to turn this into a Marqeta love-in too much and make you, blush, Vidya, in terms of the things. But like you said, when you're building a modern day business, you need modern day suppliers in order to be able to operate in the same way that you operate. The rituals, the rhythms, and everything that comes with that. And it is patience. And actually, that's where I think, when you create a partnership in that space, you need people who dance to the same beat as you, which clearly perspective with Branch. Have you seen a sort of an increase in need for this type of product in this period? Because obviously, I mean, we've gone through quite you're in the US, I'm in the UK, you're in Holland. We've seen the impact of COVID everywhere, and nowhere has sort of escaped this. But has the needs changed over that period for your product?
I would definitely say so. I mean, when we're thinking about kind of our core value of accelerating payments to workers, the value of that really is that it's helping them avoid fees elsewhere. It's helping them with cash flow, between jobs and between shifts. One of the things that we've seen is that they're also looking for this at no cost, right? Consumers want these fee-free solutions. When we did this report, which I'm sure we'll dive into, is that 70% of on the gig side even want to receive their pay within the same day. 90% of them would choose one platform or another if they can get their pay instantly without fees. So it's definitely resonating, and I think this trend is something that's just going to continue to grow.
Yeah, it's sort of that continuance, isn't it, as you say, of the changing of what the expectation is, because if you're working in that gig economy, it's the immediacy of the engagement, isn't it? So I mean, from your side, Vidya, I mean, I feel like on that underserved, overcharged, not just with Branch, but I mean, I imagine Marqeta are inundated with people trying to solve different problems in different types of markets in this space now, just because actually there's just such a flourishing market with regards to fintech to try and solve these problems.
I think that when you expose these tools and capabilities, you can never really see the variety and the breadth of products that come to market. I would have never envisioned something like Branch that Atif has come up with when we originally talked about the products and the capabilities that we put out in market. And I think that's what's been remarkable to see, is that when you expose these payments capabilities to APIs, you're seeing innovation all the way from on-demand delivery to buy now, pay later, to peer-to-peer payments, to digital banking, and with companies like Branch. And all of this is getting accelerated by some macro trends. One is we are seeing payments increasingly move online. And this is only accelerated with the most recent pandemic. What we're finding is that people are transacting, obviously less in person, more online. And when it's in person, they're transacting on card and mobile, right? Because it's no longer a question of convenience, it's a question of safety. The second trend we're seeing is that software and payments are converging. Gone are the days when you walk into a bank and say, just give me a card and I'll make my software work with it. Today, payments is deeply embedded in that experience. And so think about your last shopping experience or the last time you ordered a meal. And now with companies paying gig workers, software is deeply embedded in that experience, and payments is seamless behind, working and orchestrating all of that for the customer. And last but not least, digital payments used to be more about the younger demographics and the early adopters, and now we're seeing a sea change in adoption, where it's actually the older demographics that are even more enthusiastic about adopting digital payments because it helps them keep them safe. And so we're seeing similar demographics with workers, right? It's not just the youngest demographics that are turning to gig work. It's very often now the older population that needs secondary income that wants to supplant or maybe accelerate.
Yeah, I have seen things around that. The drive-in Uber drivers across all different types of demographics is changing dramatically, and same with things like Deliveroo or Delivery Hero globally. They're seeing real changes in the people who are coming forward for that, which obviously that's great from your perspective in terms of options for different types of users. But maybe if we move on and talk a little bit about, the collective research report that you guys have just released. on the gig economy and these trends and the direction of travel and how the explosion of this is sort of coming out. Can you start by telling us a little bit more about the report?
Yeah, at Branch, we're constantly interested in the concerns and priorities of workers. And so we've done a number of surveys on the hourly workforce and how they've been impacted. We saw, given that many workers were turning to gig work, especially during the pandemic, and just the continued general growth of the gig economy, we want to make sure that we had a good understanding and pulse on what gig workers and independent contractors cared most about. We knew that there was a lot of value in the faster payments, which is core to sort of our thesis, but the survey, I think, really reinforced just how much gig workers really value that as well. And so, yeah, it allowed us to dive in deeper. And, we know that Marqeta works with a lot of leading gig platforms, and so they're a great partner to work with on this.
And I guess from Vidya, from your perspective, this allows you guys to flex your muscles a little bit in that space. But what was the sort of thinking behind the collaboration for this research report?
I think gig work has gone away from being on the fringes of society, where it was the fun new thing and people sometimes tried it on the weekend as a way to get extra pocket money, to now becoming the lifeblood of a huge part of our society. And I don't think anyone anticipated how mainstream gig work would become and how rapidly it would change. And I just love some of the findings that we've seen in the data because it is absolutely breathtaking. And I think it's a wake-up call to companies to say, here is the complete strata of society that you need to wake up and pay more attention to, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to hire them.
And I guess, looking at those findings, and we touched a little bit on this in terms of the different reasons why people are sort of moving to gig working. But I guess, through this whole pandemic period and even before that, work is becoming something people want to fit around life rather than the other way around. But what was the main driver that you were seeing from the research for why people are sort of embracing this new way of work?
From our perspective, yeah, I think one had to do with the flexibility, right? So it's a fast, easy way for workers to supplement their income, as Vidya had mentioned. But I think, specifically over the pandemic, we saw a lot of workers had their hours significantly reduced due to limited openings or evolving regulations. And, with the reduction of hours and income, there's a certain uncertainty around stimulus checks, and gig work was really a way for workers to pick up additional work and income quickly, right? And so I think you also saw an increase of demand in some of these services over the last couple months, specifically around food and grocery delivery. So it's a nice way, again, to pick up the work and income, relatively quickly for these workers.
Yeah, I mean, there's such in those examples, as you say, with food delivery or transportation, there's such a great connection between the service you provide to the customer and the immediacy of that return to the business. So that whole system works so clearly, doesn't it? Office workers it's quite difficult to calculate the benefit by hour and so, or by trip to the printer or tapped on the keyboard. But in that context, then it's so clean, isn't it? Therefore, the immediacy all the way through to the worker in terms of the benefit to them makes a huge amount of sense. I mean, in the research, you touch a little bit on some concerns that the concerns that they have is quite unique to that group, isn't it? So what was the sort of feelings there, and how do you think you can sort of continue to work to evolve those things? Because it is an evolving set of concerns.
Yeah, when we looked at the concerns, said that was their top concern. After that, it was utilities and bills, very basic essentials. And so when we looked also at, how much did these workers have saved, like 80% of them had less than $500 saved, right? Which wasn't a lot different than what we see with just traditional hourly workers that work W-2 jobs. And so for us, at least, we knew that providing them fee-free experiences, figuring out ways to get their money to them faster makes a big, big difference in their lives, and is a way to empower them so that they can, take care of their basic essentials and week to week.
Yeah.
Just to build on what Atif said, the other thing that we found is gig workers are only willing to work on 1 to 2 platforms. And I think there's a huge misnomer that they're going to pick up as many gigs as you would like them to. And so I think it really raises the focus on how do you create a great experience for gig workers, knowing that they're going to just make limited number of choices. And to double click on the savings number that Atif mentioned, the most shocking part is that almost a third of the gig workers we surveyed had $0 in savings. That just blew my mind. And I think it shines a light on a part of the society that is really living paycheck to paycheck, and how it's not just about getting the paycheck, but about getting it as quickly as possible so that they can pay the next bill.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, given the size of this base, given the potential within it, I mean, why is it something that's been sort of ignored for such a long period of time? Because this is not a this has not happened in the last 6 months that this is blown up, has it? The gig economy, the gig workforce has been steadily growing. So is it do big incumbents struggle to risk profile people that they can't see regular income with? Do you think that's the rationale?
I think companies are struggling. This is a whole new segment for them, and they can't even keep up with the demand. Think about every service today that uses gig workers, whether that's on-demand delivery or a lot of the services that rely on these workers. Their demand has gone through the roof. So they're trying to figure out supply chain and hiring as quickly as possible. They haven't even had a moment to think about the workers they're hiring and what's important to them. And it's only now that we are a year plus into the pandemic and hiring is getting very difficult and retention is even harder, that they're pausing to say, hey, what should I be doing differently here to make it a more sustainable
Yeah, to follow on to that, I think, as Vidya mentioned, during the pandemic, I think the digital transformation for a lot of companies was just really accelerated, right? And so they were looking to gig platforms to fill gaps in their services that they needed to bring to market quickly, things like delivery services, food delivery. And so that's it was a way for them to gig work or platforms or a way for them to fill those gaps fairly quickly.
Yeah. Well, it really is fascinating. It's Atif, congratulations with the success of Branch and really finding a great group of people to be supporting. It's great you've got a partner like Marqeta to sort of steer through that as well in terms of where you're going. I mean, where do you think this industry will go? Are we going to see, and Atif, I guess from Branch's perspective, how are you seeing the product developing as time goes by? Because we've touched on a few different issues in this, which, actually distribution of funds is one problem that this particular group of people struggle with. But actually, when we sort of touch on a little bit like lending or even clarity of payments and all of these different things is difficult. So I mean, where do you sort of see your product going in the future? Because there's a lot of problems and a lot of people with these problems to try and help.
Definitely. I think for us, at least, at the core, where they pick up work, where, how often, and where we look to kind of expand our suite of offerings is layering on other financial services that are really tailored to their specific needs. So one is, expanding our rewards to provide specific rewards to workers around common business expenses. So if you're a delivery driver, you spend a lot on fuel, you might have car maintenance. That's one aspect. The other, as you mentioned too, is just other financial products like lending that are relevant to help them do their job.
And actually, as you say, there's a lot that fintech can do to support different slices of the problems that these different people have got. I mean, do you guys think the trend will continue? If anything, I personally, I think it has the potential to really accelerate post-pandemic. I think there's a few rounds of inoculations happening in various different geos, but I think the sort of economy will come back pretty quickly with gig workers being a real driver for that. So do you think this trend of the rise of sort of that gig economy will really sort of come back into action post-pandemic?
I think so. I think behaviors are and show no rush to go back to the grocery store and push a cart around Costco. It's just, once you've tasted convenience and safety at this level, you're not going to go back.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I know there's the various memes kind of kicking around on the internet that COVID's been the sort of final death nail for physical money and, you know, the catalyst for digital transformation, but almost has the inhibitor for really embracing digital just being that safety net of a branch or a physical thing. And now that that's gone away and everybody's seen the benefit, as you say, of delivery for groceries or whatever, then will people ever really go back to that other world? I mean, Atif, what do you think? I mean, from your business's perspective, I guess you're very much in the view that actually this is going to get bigger and bigger. But I think all of our personal behaviors would really sort of add to that as well.
Yes, this need for digital financial services, we think, was definitely accelerated over the last 12 months, and it's something that's going to continue to grow. I mean, one of the things we look at now is that, you know, how do we provide accessibility to new demographics that are turning to these services, right? So it's and meeting their needs. It's not just, I think, 18 to 25-year-old tech early adopters. It's a broad range of users now. So I think from a product perspective, at least, like, how do we simplify that setup, that onboarding, and really provide a great experience to new demographics turning to these services?
Fantastic. All right. Well, I know we've got a pretty hard stop at the end of this one, so we've been pretty fast and furious through this. But I know that the people who are watching this and people who are engaging with this later as well will want to learn more about the report. So, Vidya, Atif, where can people learn a little bit more and actually download the report?
You can definitely find it on Marqeta.com and go to our blog, and we have a report and summary there. And Atif, I'm sure it's also the same on your website.
Yes, you can also find it on our website. It's branchapp.com.
Very good. Okay, everybody, I'm afraid that's going to be all we have for you now. We're all busy people, got meetings to go to and stuff to do. Who would have thought it in the middle of the week? But Atif, Vidya, thank you very much for joining me. In terms of next, that's all we have for you today, but actually it's all we have for you this week as well. Make sure you follow 11FS on LinkedIn and pretty much every social media channel at this stage, and also go visit the 11FS YouTube channel where you can catch previous episodes of this show and a bunch of other content that we kick out as well. That's all we have for you right now. Have a